like nothing covering their legs. They're supposed to be fighting evil. What if they get stabbed? Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Evelyn, and last month on this channel I started a new series called Cartoon Covers, where I talk about a cartoon that I love, tell you a little bit about why I love it, and then pick a song and do a mediocre ukulele cover of it. So last time I talked a little bit about Steven Universe, and I feel like I want to touch back on that later because there are so many more things I could talk about that show and how it really was super affirming for me. But today we're going to talk about a show that took it a step further, and that is, of course, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. So a little background here. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power is a Netflix DreamWorks reboot of the old She-Ra Princess of Power cartoon from the 80s. It started in 2018 and the latest and final season released earlier in May. This reboot got a lot of flack and has continued to get a lot of flack over the years for being SJW propaganda, aka having really great awesome representation in a children's show. I saw an article, and I don't even know how it showed up in my internet sphere, but it was an article about how people were lashing out against the reboot because of the redesign of the characters. So in the original She-Ra, all of the characters are very white and all of the female characters look pretty much the same. They've got the same like ooh sort of body shape. In this adaptation, reimagining of the show, they removed it from the He-Man stuff and its own separate thing. They reimagined some of the backstory, and so it's set on its own planet. There are different kingdoms, and each kingdom has its own princess who has her own different powers, and so because there are different kingdoms and different cultures, all the princesses look different. Some of them are obviously people of color, and they all have different body types. Point being, like, they look like actual interesting characters with interesting character design. A lot of the people complaining were men who had found the original She-Ra to be very sexy, because her titties were out, and they're like, this new She-Ra looks like a dude. So I kind of spitefully watched the first season. So the main character's name is Adora, and at the beginning of the series she has been training her whole life to become a force captain in the Horde, which is this army that she is part of, and she and her best friend Catra have been raised within this system. And one day she and Catra steal a speeder and go out into the Whispering Woods, which is like supposed to be super dangerous because there's princesses out there, and the princesses are uncontrollable magic users. And Adora actually comes across this mysterious sword, and when she touches it has these very strange visions. And so sneaks back later without Catra to go find it, and ends up being captured by Glimmer and Bow, who are Glimmer's the princess, Bow's her best friend. They are part of the rebellion from Bright Moon. They kind of show Adora that, like, the Horde is evil and that she's been manipulated into thinking that what they're doing is good, but actually they've been harming the citizens of Etheria, which is the planet that they live on. And Adora uses that sword to transform into She-Ra, who's the Princess of Power, and decides to join the rebellion and fight against the Horde to liberate Etheria. Unfortunately, that means she has to leave Catra behind, and Catra does not take that well, and sort of becomes very antagonistic. Now, I watched the first season of this show in 2018 when it first released, and I was like, okay, cool, nice, alright. And then promptly, like, forgot to keep watching it. Like, I went through a phase where I, like, stopped watching television, like, altogether, and that's why I stopped watching Voltron, which is why I was not personally betrayed by it the way a lot of my friends were. I was packing for college over the summer and I needed something to play in the background. I was like, oh, what if I play She-Ra? Because I'd been meaning to get back into it. It was actually a really good motivator because it's like a super empowering show, but specifically the theme song, which is the song that I'm hoping to learn how to play on the ukulele for this video, is really like powerful and motivating. And there's a part where the singer just yells, "We're gonna win in the end," and every time I'd be like, yeah, I can pack my damn stuff, I'm gonna move 12 hours away, I'm gonna kick butt at college. Like it totally took my mind off the fact that like my world was about to get like turned upside down in a way. But also I could relate to Adora just because like I felt like I was leaving everything I'd ever known behind. Not the only thing that I can relate to about her, but at the time. Yeah, so I started watching it mostly as a distraction and then kind of got really invested in the characters. So at this point, spoiler alert for the rest of the series. I've kind of summarized the whole premise, but I'm probably going to talk a lot about some other things that are like, you know, spoilers. So I love Glimmer. Glimmer reminds me a lot of my best friend Cameron and also my friend Olivia. You've seen both of them in previous videos on this channel, potentially. They are very similar human beings and they both remind me of Glimmer a lot. I was rooting for Katra's redemption arc the entire time, and let me tell you, man, I was so happy about that. Her and Zuko, we cut our hair and defected from the bad side squad. I guess I'm skirting around season 5. I don't know why. It still feels super unreal to me. But let's talk about queer representation in media, specifically children's media. If you've been around on this channel, perhaps you have picked up the idea that it would be an accurate one, that I consume a lot of children's media. I mean, if you just look behind me here, mouse ears, Disney poster, Disney poster, Disney poster, Lilo and Stitch. I talk about princesses and I talk about Steven Universe and other cartoons, and like, that's partially because I just like happily ever afters, and in a children's story, that's usually what you get. I also want to create children's media. That's why I'm going to school to study writing, is because I believe that stories for children are important and I want to create those and I want to fight for accurate representation within them. And honestly, it's kind of a struggle sometimes because people don't take that seriously. Or they take it super seriously. So I grew up, my father is a children's artist, and that's why I got into this. And there are a lot of people who are like, oh, well, it's for children, so it doesn't have to be good. And then there are a lot of people who are like, oh, it's for children, so it has to be morally perfect. Which is why it's fucking difficult to get gay characters in children's shows and in children's books. Because we are in a society that has very heavily Christian values, and one of those, unfortunately, is, ooh, gay people, that's wrong. So when we do get gay characters in media, they are often over-sexualized, they don't get a happy ending, and they're like morally questionable. It's viewed as morally questionable. So those three things don't really conflate with the idea that, oh, children's media should be morally pure and have a happy ending. And while I do stand by the happy ending aspect of that, I think that there's a room in children's media for sadness, but I think you should always have a hopeful outlook. That it's also like ridiculous because homosexuality is not inherently sexual. So since I'd say like the end of Legend of Korra, when they kind of suggested they might be gay for each other, we have had increasingly good representation of queer women in cartoons, which is like, yay, good thing, very good thing. But still, a lot of the time they are side characters, right? So even if they like fully come out, they're like, I like you, I love you, I want to kiss you, you're my girlfriend now, whatever, they're still like side characters. So like Steven Universe or Adventure Time, right? Like it's a side thing, side plot, side whatever. Now, in She-Ra, they did have a canonical lesbian couple off to the side, but then they also had former childhood friends turned enemies pining over each other from opposite sides of a huge, like, universe-wide war. And we were like, that seems gay. And She-Ra creator Noelle Stevenson and her wife Molly were like, yeah, seems gay, doesn't it? Wonder why. And there was so much tension. The fucking princess, I'm only one person, I cannot dip. So Adora and Catra were heavily queer-coded in general, but like specifically it was like they like each other, they're in love, like, but they're idiots. The thing was that we'd been there before with another DreamWorks cartoon on Netflix, and it hadn't ended well. And so everyone was just a teensy bit afraid going into season 5 that Catra would not become canon. But like, it simultaneously felt like the only possible outcome and also such an impossible outcome. That even though it did become canon, yay, I was like seriously sitting there watching the final episode like, oh my god, Catra's gonna die. Catra's gonna die. I don't know how Catra's gonna die, but Catra's gonna die. Because Adora can't die, because she's the main character, so Catra's gonna die. Like, she just got redeemed, and she joined the team, and they're gonna kill it. Like, I was fully convinced Catra's gonna die. Up until that moment where they kiss. And then I was like, oh, holy shit. Like, I am a fully grown adult woman, kind of. I had never, literally never, been watching something, these two characters that I love, and I relate to both of them very strongly for different reasons. The very main character, the hero, the chosen one in this universe, looked her female love interest in the eyes, said, I love you too, and then they kissed. In my 19 years on this earth, hadn't seen that before. And it was so affirming and heartwarming and good, and I cried a lot over several days about it. I have not shut up about it since, in fact. Because in my 19 years on this planet, a couple times, I'd been like, oh yeah, I can be the hero. But in that moment, I was like, holy shit. Like, I can fully be myself, be the hero, fall in love, and have a happy ending. That's so fucking radical. Noelle Stevenson did that. The crew did that. It was only a couple of scenes in the very last episode of a 5-season television show. And that's still, like, historical and life-changing, and just, because it's not just that, it's years and years and years of work, hard work put in by the crew of that show, fighting tooth and nail for like the tiniest bit of representation, and they made it happen when others have failed. And I am so proud of them. And like, Noelle Stevenson is honestly one of my heroes. Making that happen, I will forever be thankful that she did that for us. Imagine you're like 8 to like 12 years old. Maybe you're starting to question your sexuality a little bit, because that's when I was. You're watching this show and the main character says I love you to a girl, kisses her, and then like not only are there no consequences, everyone's happy for them, they're in love now and it's good and it's wonderful, but like their love is made to be the climax of the show. It is what saves everyone. It is what powers through. Then you are left with a message that love conquers all, that all love is important. It's just, like I said, I want to create children's media and I want to create some pretty gay shit. But I'm also really terrified by that and really like oftentimes feel like maybe I should just not. Like, I don't usually talk about my sexuality in real life. Maybe I don't want to bring that into my work. Maybe I don't want to open myself up to criticism from people both within and outside of the community. Because a lot of the time, things get criticized by people within the community super harshly. And for that I say, no. There are two things that I've noticed. One, it's people slamming on what little representation we have for it being bad representation for like completely ridiculous reasons. For example, The Half of It, directed by Alice Wu. It recently came onto Netflix. It is a queer coming-of-age story. It explicitly says this is not a romance story, and yet people were calling it bad queer representation and queer baiting because the two girls didn't end up together. But you know what? It cannot be queer baiting if there is a canonically lesbian character who is the main character. But just because it's not exactly what some people might have wanted, they're like, oh, this is bad representation. No, it's good fucking representation. And it's not problematic inherently that they did not end up together. What is problematic is that there is not a counterpart where they do end up together. Same way that like Love, Simon is not inherently problematic because it shows a happy ending. In fact, it is very, very fucking radical that that movie shows a happy ending. That there are two guys who kiss and their entire school cheers. Is that realistic? No. Are straight rom-coms realistic either? Hell no. A majority of the time the issue is not with individual representation. The real issue is that we just don't have enough to satisfy everyone. Hey guys, Editing Evelyn here. So I just wanted to pop in and clarify one of the points that I was trying to make due to some recent discussion over the young adult book The State of Us. I thought it was important to clarify. I don't think that things cannot be harmful representation just because they have LGBT characters in them. I actually think that many, many things can be harmful representation. The State of Us, for example, where a white author's writing from the point of view of a character of color without really taking into account the actual experiences of queer people of color. What I'm trying to say in this video is that we can't use the label problematic when we actually mean this book or this film or this TV show does not fully represent me. Because the LGBT community is so vastly wide and diverse, the LGBT experience cannot be defined by a single piece of media. When it comes to marginalized groups like the LGBT community, it's not individual pieces of media that fail in terms of representation. It's the fact that we do not have a full enough catalog of diverse stories. We do not have enough stories about queer characters of color. We do not have enough stories about transgender characters, about non-binary characters. The stories that we do have often do not get as much mainstream attention as books about queer white boys. Yes, I do believe that there can be problematic things within queer media, and we should not be afraid to call them out when we see them. However, like I said, just because something does not represent you does not mean that it is inherently problematic, and I think that there is a worrying trend of people using that label very flippantly. I see, recently especially with She-Ra, I've seen so much discourse about, oh, well, that's just pandering, and it's way easier to get a lesbian couple on screen than it is to get a gay couple on screen. People just think lesbians are hot, so like she didn't even have to, right? Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. You want to know what is way easier to get into a book? Two boys in love. You wanna know why? Partially because they're not own voices stories, it's a lot of straight cis white women writing them, but also because straight teenage girls, I'm calling you out, friends, are more likely to ship 2 guys than 2 girls. Even if there's canonical evidence for the 2 girls and there is no canonical evidence, just like queer baiting and subtext for the 2 guys, they're gonna ship the 2 guys. And so that's just as weird and creepy as the fully grown dudes who want lesbians on screen because they think it's hot. And you know it deep down. Not that shipping male ships is wrong, just like there's a disparity there. Like if you are going to stan Carry On, I need you to know at least 2 female books that you could also wreck. Just saying. Is there any productive reason to be saying, oh, it's so much easier to get this kind of representation on screen, so it's not valid? No! There is no productive reason to be saying that, you dumbasses. You realize that, like, if we spent that same energy hyping up each other, it would become so much easier to get representation on screen and on the page, because then we would only be fighting against the straight people and not ourselves too, right? And if you want more gay guys on screen, then like supporting the gay women on screen, the Own Voices creators who've been fighting to get gay women on screen, could only help you in your quest. Solidarity is an important aspect of creation in marginalized communities. Some people, I question their logical thinking skills. By that I mean most people. There's all of this just confusion and anger around the idea of representation, and that makes it really, really difficult. So it might seem like we're like inching forward, but like those little tiny steps are huge in comparison to the history. So now that I've ranted about that for a little bit, a lot of it, way longer than I thought I would, let's have some fun. Find ukulele chords for Warriors, the theme song to She-Ra and the Princess of Power. Ugh. E chord. Gross. Why? There's only 4 chords in this song, but one of them is E, which is an awful chord, and I kind of have a cheat for it, but it's still kind of gross, and so I'll have to play this slowly for that switch. So, it starts on A minor, and then F, G, and then E. So for those of you who are following along at home, that's and then for E, I go to the 4th fret, I just kind of bar that, and then pinky on 7 for string 7. And sometimes sometimes it sounds okay. Goes A minor on the edge of greatness. F, bringing darkness to light. G, we're right beside you, ready to E, fight. We must be strong. A minor, we must be brave. F, we're better. G, strength we have, and never E, let it go. I'm not that good at strumming patterns yet, is the thing. Like, I'm getting better at chords. But, like, I'm not getting good at that. Okay, so we'll keep it simple. Together we'll be heroes, joining forces as one. Strong as the steel we carry, we rise like the sun. We must be strong, we must be brave. We're gonna find every bit of strength that we have and never let it go. Let's figure out how to sing strong as the steel we carry, we rise like the sun, because I think I did that wrong. Joining forces as one. Strong as the steel we carry, we rise like the sun. Ooh, sun. And what does AJ do? Forces as one. Strong as the steel we carry, we rise like the sun. It's weird because the two vibes of these two different versions of the song that they've recorded are so different, and I'm trying to go somewhere in the middle here. Cause we're warriors, we are unstoppable, nothing's gonna get in our way. We're gonna win in the end. We're gonna win in the end. We must be strong. We must be brave. So we're gonna win in the end. And we must be brave. We're gonna find every bit of strength that we have and never let it go. I'm gonna try doing it all together now. Black, white, green, red. Can I take my friend to bed? Ha. We're warriors, unstoppable. We feel the evil coming, and shadows all around. Danger surrounds us, but won't bring us down. We're on the edge of greatness, turning darkness to light. We're right beside you, ready to fight. And we must be strong, and we must be brave. We're gonna find every bit of strength that we have and never let it go. We're bound to the struggle with mighty sword and flame. We'll never fail you when you call our name. Together we'll be heroes, joining forces as one. Strong as the steel we carry, we rise like the sun. And we must be strong, we must be brave. We're gonna find every bit of strength that we have and never let it go. Cause we're warriors, we're unstoppable, nothing's gonna get in our way. We're gonna win in the end. We must be brave. We're gonna find every bit of strength that we have and never let it go. We must be strong. We must be brave. We're gonna reach inside, still together and fight, never let it go. We must be strong. Hey, Adora. Oh, no. Okay, that wasn't, like, too bad, actually. I think I did that pretty well, especially since I was trying to sort of meld the two styles of the two different versions that exist of that song. Yeah, let me know what you thought in the comments. Also, what cartoon do you think that I should cover next? That is all that I have for you all this week, but if you like this video and you want to see more from my channel, remember to click that subscribe button. With that being said, my name is Evelyn. I make new videos every magical Monday, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.